Quinn here with SEO Works, and in this video we're going to cover the question, what is web development? And more specifically, how is web development different when concerned with search engine optimization? We're talking web dev for SEO. As always, if you're just looking for someone to come in and help you get started with your SEO or with your web dev, you don't have to wait to the end of this video. We offer a series of completely free, we'll call them freebies, that you can take advantage of right now, including our no strings attached SEO analysis and checklist. The analysis and checklist come with over 1,000 words of unique audit insights, multiple pages of unique SEO scoring, and of course, a checklist with multiple line items that will help you get started right away. These freebies are meant to give you enough information to make educated decisions moving forward. Regardless if you choose a freebie or not, this video is certainly going to help you understand a little bit more about web development and SEO. Now, whether you have a live site that exists today, you're starting over, or you're starting from scratch, you've come to the right place. So let's get into it. Here's what you can expect from the next couple of minutes in this video. We're going to talk about what are the main components to be aware of when considering web dev for SEO. Why is web dev for SEO important? How to determine if you need it, and the next steps that you can take right now. Alright, so what comprises web dev for SEO? We've talked many times and we will continue to talk a lot about the three main pillars of SEO. If you haven't had a chance to check out our video, What is SEO? We talk about the three pillars there as well as in their own videos. You can find links to each of these videos in the description below. And frankly, we're only just getting started. We intend to continue to create these videos to get into the weeds of specific components of all areas of SEO and digital marketing. We want to share significant learnings, how-tos, tips, tricks, guides, the works when it comes to digital marketing. Suffice it to say, on-page, off-page, and technical SEO are the three main pillars of SEO. And as you develop your website, you need to be aware of the vast amount of checklist items that belong to each of these areas and how they'll pertain to the site that you're building. Obviously, this alone is a daunting task. If we're being honest, creating a site alone without SEO in mind is a daunting task. When we add the world of SEO to it, it only becomes more complex and more complicated. So whether you're going to start your site, or you're starting your site over, or you're hiring someone to do that, you need to make sure that whoever's in charge is aware of the components that we'll talk about in this video. One last quick caveat. This video simply cannot be long enough to get into the weeds of every component of web dev for SEO. But you can rest assured that we'll cover the most important things at a high level, and watch for subsequent videos where we do get into the weeds on those individual components. With that said, we're going to cover the top 4 most important components to web dev for SEO. And these are functionality, architecture, performance, and user experience. Honestly, we're not even going to get into mobile friendliness, keyword mapping, title, meta, and other important tags. We're not even going to get into images, international SEO, backlinks, or local SEO. We just can't. So let's begin. Number 1, functionality. Functionality refers to how your site works, or how it's going to work if it's not yet built. What components are being used across the site? How is JavaScript rendering? What coding languages are being used? The status codes of your pages. How to treat errors. Proper removal of unused or zombie pages. Addressing redirect loops and hops. Broken links. The list is extensive. Essentially, it's the structure in place that allows your site to do what's necessary. Whether that's e-commerce, attribution, functional tools, calculated fields, search functions, or whatever else you might have on your site. For a good portion of the internet's existence, developers simply built. If they could build it, they did. The reality is that in today's world, it's not enough to simply build it. A developer who's keeping SEO in mind has to think about the big picture. Where's this site going to live in the end game? We've used this analogy before, but SEO is much like a library, and algorithms are like the Dewey Decimal System. You could be the best author or developer in the world, providing valuable insight, unique storyline, character development. But I digress. What I'm trying to say is no matter how good the book is, if it's not optimized to be indexed appropriately, nobody's going to be able to find it. So a developer today has to think about how Google and other search engines are going to index so that the audiences that are going to be interested and looking for this content can find it. They'll also have to start asking themselves questions like, is the thing that I'm building the best way to build it? Is it the most optimized so that my performance doesn't get hindered? And are all the things that I'm building organized in a manner that is understandable by crawlers and bots and humans? Which brings us to point 2, performance. Performance is concerned with how well your site does what it does. Does it run quickly? What are your core web vitals? What's your site speed? Have you removed unused code? Minified existing code? What's your time to first paint? Time to first interactive? How's your accessibility? And so on. Even 1 second of performance difference can impact bounce rates, organic traffic, rankings, and ultimately conversions. If you have an existing CMS, likely there are plugins that can help you with a lot of these performance issues. However, this also comes with a word of caution. You can certainly install too many third-party plugins that ultimately deters you from your goal. Having an expert on hand who has years of experience and hundreds of sites that they've done this for goes a long way because they know where the sweet spot is, which is why we recommend it. Number 3, architecture. Architecture is probably one of the most difficult and robust sections of web dev for SEO because above all other areas, it definitely requires some forethought and strategy before you get started. How are you and how will you tell Google and users the importance of your pages? Some SEOs call this PageRank. Regardless, it's important for us to make sure that the most important pages are represented by being the most important, by being in specific areas of our site closer to the index page, and with more backlinks coming to them from subsequent child pages, middle of funnel pages, and top of funnel pages. Having a structure and a strategy in place for this will ensure direction for every page that you will build or revamp. This will help ensure that every page on your site has a purpose and utilizes your limited crawl budget efficiently, ensuring that you have no page outwards of 3 to 5 clicks from the index page, addressing zombie pages, duplicate content issues, thin content issues, parameterization issues, URL structure inconsistencies, and then of course, link equity distribution, or ensuring that the pages of similar intent and value are getting the amount of link equity from the page before it in an equal manner. And proper site mapping by page type. This certainly is not everything that's related to architecture, but all of this will in fact help Google index your site more appropriately, and in turn help users find what they're looking for easier. Which brings us to the 4th major component of web dev for SEO, which is user experience. User experience, or UX, is concerned with how easy it is for an actual human to interact with and navigate through your site, and to do this for humans of all demographics. URL friendliness, or short URLs that include your primary keyword. Appropriate internal linking and breadcrumbs to help users find where they've come from and where they are. CTAs, or calls to action, reflective of the intent of that page. A custom 404 page for when there are errors. Heat mapping, so that you can better understand user pathing. Shareability of your content, and the list goes on. Certainly by being aware of these user experience components, you are going to have a more efficient site for human interaction. This is a positive signal for Google, and in turn will impact your organic traffic rankings and so on. The bottom line, for each of these components, it's true. A strategy ahead of the game is going to make this incredibly easier. That being said, if you already have an existing site, you're not out of luck. There's just a little bit more effort involved in creating a strategy from this point that's going to allow you to make these changes and do so effectively. The proper management of dealing with URL changes, combined and condensed content issues, status codes, navigational updates, and much, much more will require the strategy ahead of time to be able to understand where pages are going to live, how they're going to live, and how you'll take what is today and make it what will be. It may sound a little daunting, but it is doable. Which really brings us to the next point. Why is web dev for SEO so important? Typically, you might come across a skilled web developer or a skilled SEO strategist or analyst. Very seldomly will you come across an individual who is both. They're just very extensive fields in and of themselves. Whether you find this rarity in one person or you surround yourself with a team so that you can have good developers and good SEOs, you'll learn very quickly that one skill without the other won't get you very far in the digital world. Meaning, if you have a skilled SEO strategist, you still need someone to be able to implement and build by the direction given by the SEO. Alternatively, if you have a skilled developer who can build anything, without the strategy and direction provided by SEO best practices, that site, like we've talked about before, won't be indexed appropriately and is worth much less than if it had been indexed and found by users. So, web dev for SEO is a beast in and of itself, and it will save you years of headache and frustration if you think about web dev for SEO from the beginning. Finding an expert or a team of experts that have already married these skills is a difficult endeavor. And here's where we do a little pat on our back. SEO Works has a team of experts that fit that rare hybrid of marriage between web development and SEO. Years of experience and hundreds of sites that have been built for SEO. So if you're looking for someone to take it on, you've found a good option. So how do you know if you need web dev for SEO? Determining whether or not you need web dev for SEO is actually quite easy. Ask yourself these questions. Have you tried SEO services in the past and simply haven't found much success? Do you have an existing site that simply doesn't perform well compared to your competitors? Are you looking to build a site and don't know where to start? If you can answer yes to any of these questions, it's likely you need to look further into web dev for SEO and possibly hire out a team of experts. Which brings us to the final section. What now? What can you do? Well, as always, you have options. These videos that we're producing are intended to provide our audience with sufficient information to make educated decisions. We hope that we've given you enough here that you can start looking into diving deep on your own and tinkering. You'll find resources in other videos and across our site that will help you further. With that, we want to end with the reality of the situation. This is not easy, and there are wrong ways to do it. And that's okay. We all have to learn. If you have the time, money, skill set, and brain power to take this on yourself, more power to you. It's an ongoing job that requires active dedication, and much of it can get technical. Ultimately, we certainly recommend the time, money, and frustration saved by hiring out a team of experts far outweighs the competitive, no-contract, month-to-month premiums that we offer here at SEO Works. But hey, like we mentioned before, if you're caught at a crossroads and you're really not quite sure which route to go, you're in luck. We have a series of completely free freebies that you can claim that will help you get started. You can check out the SEO analysis and checklist that will definitely give you an idea of where your existing site is today and what are some major components that you can start working on. You can go through, get the information, and make a decision from there. On one hand, you've got information that you can start to implement on your own. On the other, we get to show you some of our expertise, our work ethic, the transparency, and just the quality of our work and team up front. It's a win-win. Obviously, we're hoping that you go down the path of over 500 small and large businesses and decide that hiring out a team of experts is definitely worth it. But there you have it. As promised, we went through at a high level what is web development for SEO. We wish you luck. And as always, we encourage you to like and subscribe so that you can stay up on the latest on all things SEO. Because let's be honest, SEO works.